Okay, the July meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is hereby called to order. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Motion to accept or any edits?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes presented.
Have a second?
Guess I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we'll hold off on the presentation of bills accounts until Jim can audit those. I'll jump into Cooper Lake improvements then.
All right, so I'll start with the construction. So they're moving along. They're excavating right now and installing the clay core. They're on the spillway, working their way over to the intake tower. They're getting ready to pour the, I think they're pouring today, the final pour for the walls of the intake tower. And they're doing the chimney drains. They actually have some pipe down on the upstream side of the intake. They got the low, mid, and high level pipes coming out of the tower up to the coffer dam. Let's see, next week.
So when they get to that coffer dam, do
They will
breach that?
So there's like a U, and then there's another layer. So they're gonna take that other layer out, base the top of the U essentially. And then they'll go out into where the water would have been. But they have to finish the clay core first.
So the part that's in is from the building,
To the coffer.
well, okay, and not as opposed to the other way out, okay.
So when they finish the clay core, up to the building.
Okay, so on the other side though, they're gonna,
Eventually.
how do they lay that?
They just pull it and that's it. I don't know if they're gonna do diving on the low level.
It should all be in the coffer dam, but they can't pull out that one. There's a few sheets of sheet piling that they can't remove until the clay core is in place. Because they need 2 layers of protection from the.
Okay. So the intake's only gonna go out as far as the coffer dam is right now.
Right, and it'll dive down depending on the level of the
Okay.
intake.
And then once all that's in place, then they pull,
Well,
they're gonna
not
cut
pull
the-
them, they're
they're
gonna
gonna
cut
cut them. And then the thing's gonna backfill or fill in.
The only ones that are gonna get pulled are the ones that are in the way currently for the piping to get to where the water will be. And the rest will be, for the most part, either left in place or cut.
Okay. Getting into the,
Elevation. So the lake is dropping. We are down at 1093.8. Down from our maximum construction capacity of 1096. Been very warm, and very dry. No camera looking for leaks. At this point, considering a drought alert and consider shutting off Ulster for a period. Yeah, with some rain, we can maintain this for a little bit and limit the drop now before it gets too late.
when we started this project, we talked about this connection to
Yeah.
the show king
So what
as our
I,
backup in case we got to a drought condition.
well, I mean, 10 feet down, we're kind of already there, and that's full. And with what I have now, that is not an option. I mean, we could tell them to go on that, but they're telling me 3 to 4 months to fuse and lay the pipe. They gotta do the road crossings, do the electrical drop next week. But while they're doing the fusing of the pipe, they would do all that other work, because it's 3 months to do the pipe, they're telling me, to be getting it and laying it.
So that part of the project goes from installing the electrical hookups.
Well, the laying of the pipe was never part of the project, that was always an add-on to it. The piping, the temporary piping was never.
Right, the piping would actually go temporarily from
From the show can.
the show can under 28 down Xena Road or whatever that road is called.
Yeah. Then
And that
across
piping would go,
into that vault, I showed you that,
yeah, but right in front of
the
the
PTF.
PTF.
Yep.
I mean, that's temporary piping.
At that, yeah, for the most part, it'll be pieces through that run that are permanent, the road crossings,
You're right.
the vault.
But, I mean, part of our drought plan from even way back, even before all of this, was to do that. That's our drought plan, is the connection to the Shokan with temporary piping from someplace.
That's what they did in 57.
Right, I mean, the state used to maintain a state emergency stockpile of pumps and pipe. And I guess what we suggest we do is maybe contact the state health department and see what's available in case.
I can do
I
that.
mean, that's the concept of that emergency stockpile is not 3 or 4 months down the road. It's like you request it and they ship it down, hopefully within days. Obviously, someone needs to put it together,
Sure.
but I think we need to make a contact someplace at the state health department level through Ulster County, I guess, to see what's even available. I mean, my understanding over time is that they've loaned out a lot of that equipment, and either it's never shown its way back or just deteriorated to a point that it's not functional. And I don't think they've spent a lot of money on resupplying the stockpile, but I'm not sure.
I mean, I only went to one water utility council. My understanding, maybe Jim has it, but that a lot of that stuff is not for drinking water. It's been used for,
Well, they have to disinfect it. It was gonna be used, and we did it 10 years ago. I think we even discussed with them. Judy did. She has the contact information.
Chris.
We did look at it.
Well, Chris Wheeler would be a
Yeah.
good starting point, who's the director of the Bureau of Water Supply.
Right.
To start. I mean, you might want to touch base first before you call up there. Call the Ulster County Health Department and talk to Tim Rose.
actually, I got a message in with him right now.
Because, you know, they, the local health department, don't like water utilities jumping above them and going to the state without them being involved. I mean, I can understand that. But, and that's one of my suggestions, is that we contact
I can reach out.
and find out what's available. And use them as resources too.
Yes, I mean, we're at the early enough stage of what could be a really dry summer, right? So I think it's good for us to make sure we have all of our resources available. I mean, I think that by, at least alerting the public that, we're, in a drought condition, and that, due to the work that we're doing on the reservoir, it's really important for us to, heed this alert that we're putting out, and I think give the chance to see how our residents respond, right? It's been a while since we've actually had drought conditions in the city. And so I don't know how they have reacted in the past to see what kind of reduction we've seen when we've issued a drought alert and then eventually a drought emergency or something along those lines. Like, I think that would be interesting to see, like, a few days after we issued the drought alert, like, is it actually making a difference? And if it's not at all, right, I think that may give us some more feedback as to, how more seriously we need to consider, putting in,
How do you communicate with the people today? It used to be in the newspaper, but I don't think anybody.
yeah, I mean, I think that today between, your Swift water 911 system, our Swift 911 system, we share the same, like, we can literally call and text everyone that's in our system. We have over, every landline in the city gets called, every email address that we have, we can email. I mean, we have 3,000 people just in my newsletter alone. When we do snow emergencies, everybody knows that they gotta move the car from one side of the street to the other, and so it's a great way for us to be able to get out and now alerts that maybe we didn't have in the past.
I don't want to scare people.
Well, but
Well, there's three different,
This
three
is
different
just
levels.
a voluntary request
Right,
for
there's-
conserve water.
There's 3 different levels, correct?
There's an alert, there's a warning, emergency, and disaster. Those are the four.
Okay, so we're at the first one, and
Yep.
I think it's important that we do let people know that we're in the first stage. I guess you can work the mayor or use our own swift alert system, put together, the typical language that would go out under a drought alert. Explain, the reservoir is down due to construction. And people, another opportunity to let people know that the Cooper Dam project is ongoing.
Correct.
So I think the average person, which I think I am, they think it was probably a very wet spring. And now they think it's a little dry, but nothing that would warrant drought conditions. So I think they need to be made aware of that the level of the reservoir has been lowered, so the project can
Yes.
be completed. And that's why I think there needs to be, similar to the treatment plant, a public, media showing the project, showing what's been done, showing what we're doing and why the condition is why it is, you know what I mean? Because it could get worse, or it could rain and get better all of a sudden, but it could get worse really quick because our buffer zone now has been restricted.
And that was the first draft of something that's using some language that we've had in the past with a little bit added of a project that's going on now.
That's what it. If you do hook up to the show, where does it come into?
Where is it coming to our system? That's
Yeah,
PTF.
the whole, actually, the facility, the pre-treatment facility, right there, that whole. One other
You
way
might not
to
have seen- you might not have seen it. It's pretty good.
there's another way to do it too, is to pump from the Ashokan into Reservoir 4. Then 4 has a line into the system too. That was the original, with Joe Woods.
But it's all silted over, isn't it, for?
Yeah, but if you fill it up, it'll take.
Well, no, 4 is,
That's one up in the hill, not the one, not the east, it's one.
the 4 is the one right
It's the
along,
largest one, 70 million gallon storage.
it's right along Xena Road.
Theoretically, I don't know about anymore.
That's below the filter plant, remember, because they had to pump it up to the upper reservoir.
No, not 4. That's one. One they got. One is near
One was the house.
Winnie's house. That's one.
Okay,
4 is up,
that's the one up above.
it's up above. That was the first reservoir for the city of Kingston.
That goes to, I know that, because they pump.
2 and 4, yeah. It's got the head.
But you
How
get,
much-
you get from Cooper Lake directly to 4? I mean, from Ashoka County to 4?
Yeah. And we
Well, we need to put piping in, and that's where I think, actually, that was what the original
right. We had
plan, that the temporary plan was to pump, pipe the water from Ashokan into 4, and that 4 already had connections to the PTF,
Right.
and that we would just utilize that. I didn't realize we were putting a whole new line in. I remember when you and I went up there that one day, I was confused about where this vault was going in regards to the fact that wasn't there already a line from 4 connecting in, so.
So that's,
Yeah, 4, Joe had gotten the pumps from the emergency management of the state. The pumps went into that Shogun. We had an intake line that we kept moving the pump closer. As the Shogun was dropping too, we kept moving the pump closer into the water level. And then we had, the pipe was the aluminum irrigation pipe, which leaks.
Well, as our consultant, is that something that you should be involved with then? In regards
So we
to
could, yeah, I mean.
consulting Matt and us, the board, about
Yeah,
what's the best avenue
yeah, I
to
think
deal with?
the best thing is to get the contact. Judy has the contact name, I know. Gotta ask her tomorrow. But what's the name, somewhere in the files, the name of the warrant and everything else that she was involved with before she retired, but she was more involved with doing this, because we did look at doing it.
Well, Warren is part of AWWA, right? Or New York State,
Yeah, that's part of the state,
part of
the state, yeah, not AWWA, it's part of the state. But we could find out if they have emergency pumps and if they have the so-called irrigation pipe still available. Put it in, you disinfect it.
yeah, I mean, it's raw water anyway. It's
Yeah.
gonna be disinfected and chlorinated,
Down.
disinfected twice.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
yeah.
filtered and
Yeah. The only thing was, like you said earlier, the condition of the pipe was And like C-clamps that.
So do we need to have a motion then to,
I like the letter, by
The
the way.
last time we did one, there wasn't.
okay, I'm just looking for council to see.
Call that, I think.
That's the last time it just says that the board asked the superintendent to issue a draft.
Okay.
That's what we did. In 2016, that's how it went.
So I understand you're taking the first step, declaring a drought alert, which calls for voluntary restrictions on use of water.
Correct.
Now, there are subsystems of the town of Ulster distribution system that is entirely dependent upon the city of Kingston, Spring Lake, Rolling, Hillside Acres, and East Kingston.
Right.
Do you want me to issue a parallel notice in the town, since you are the sole water source?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay,
So tomorrow, I would ask you to send it, I'm gonna ask you to send me an email. Putting in writing to the town, and this would be the first thing that you would ask, as far as the town's cooperative efforts on our adjoining systems. That cannot be separate.
Sure.
But are we asking to not sell them the,
I think that would help us limit.
well, we have to provide water to
Yeah. I wouldn't- I
East
wouldn't have-
Kingston,
I wouldn't have to shut those off.
Hillside and Spring Lake.
But that's
Because they have no other source of
That's not the
water.
bulk of the water. We sell most of it to the town where.
The majority of the deliveries are to the Ulster Water District on Dogwood Street.
Right.
And that would be step number 2 in your email to me, based upon what you discuss here and agree to. My request is that you give it to us, since this is the middle of the week, and you are uncertain as to the longevity of this request, that you give it to me in weekly increments, so that I can do staff planning and resource planning on my end, so that, let's just say, for the sake of discussion, by Friday of next week, there's no more rain, okay, we're gonna go another week. With the intention that the following Friday, you make an evaluation again, and then again, you send me an email, send John Rowe a copy, and John Rose saying, please stay off for another week.
That works for me.
That's reasonable. But the main line that goes in by your sewer treatment plant, which is the main line that comes,
Will feed Tech City, which we can't turn off. And I have no idea what their consumption is per day.
I think it's pretty low.
That's it, that's basically not.
It's very low. As long as our Dogwood Street station is turned off, there will be no infiltration or no water passing into the town of Ulster system. So we will stop whatever draw we have.
I think that will help for time being. There's chance of rain here and there, but I can't tell when it's going to actually come.
Matt, what I would ask though, is if we go for a month, maybe 3 weeks, you know, let us come back for 3 days, 4 days to restore the mix in our system. And then we'll go back off for another 3 weeks. If
Yeah,
that,
well, we can talk about that, obviously, we'll see how we go.
right,
3 weeks
it's
from
all
now.
dependent upon water supply. I mean, if you dropped another 10 feet, I wouldn't be asking that, but if by us stopping our usage.
Yeah, we
you were
should
able to
gain.
Maintain your level and start to refill, at some point, you could help us
Mhm.
in our system by restoring a 2, 3, 4 days worth of draw
That's reasonable.
and then going off again.
Yeah.
But it all has to be coordinated with notice.
I'll stay in touch with you and John. I mean,
Right, and I prefer written notice, because when John sends the voucher over to me for the billing, I have no clue what days we were on, what days we were off, and I gotta go chase people to find out, okay, what am I supposed to be paying? And I get down to the end of the year with the reconciliation, I go nuts. So at least if I have a written notice, I can at least have a direction of where to go.
So this alert, other than affecting town of Ulster more than anybody else, really doesn't affect anything else within the city of Kingston in regards to like,
Asking them to serve.
sure, I mean, I know at one point in time, I guess at the next stage is where like car washes that don't recirculate get shut down. I mean, I don't know if we have any that,
I mean, that's a stage or two down from this
That's
alert.
that's, okay, it's another, that's the next stage,
Yeah,
or two stages.
might be two.
But I think all the car washes are now.
Recirculable, well, I think maybe Perry's or somebody up on, I think there's one left.
So just to, for my understanding better of the system, reservoir 4 that you spoke about before, how feasible is it to siphon off? Because there, again, it doesn't probably have 70 million gallons anymore, but maybe there's 30. I don't know, you know, is that.
The water quality is less. I would need to talk with Derek to get better, but I know we, basically right now it's used for reducing the pressure at the plant. It's the most use that reservoir gets. I would need to talk to Derek.
Just so I have an understanding, like if we're getting to the stage of, you know, I mean, you guys do reductions, you know, and may not be necessarily tapping into the Ashokan yet. Is that a middle ground?
Well, that's where I would look
Yeah.
to Jim to advise us.
Yeah.
How feasible that reservoir quality and setup is.
Well, it's all, the quality is good, the problem is getting the pipe and the pump.
No, could we even tap something off of that reservoir?
Could just be 4 rating.
Are they talking about 4 or they show?
4.
Oh, 4, oh, okay.
Could we use anything out of 4
Yeah, you
in
have,
the, before we go,
right.
you know, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
before we get to the Ashokan, can we use what we own? We own 4.
Right, that was the intent, obviously, to have these emergency reservoirs. Again, it was 70, maybe the usable capacity right now is 35, I don't know, 50%. Question
But
is,
still,
the
it's-
water quality has to be looked at immediately. The chemist,
Okay, well,
the
that's
chemist should be looking at the water quality before.
7 days.
Matt, just for my own edification, what's your daily sale use?
I'm sorry,
Gallonage, what's your daily gallonage?
with also.
Everything.
about 4 million.
4 million?
4.2 right now.
So by taking us off 500,000-600,000, it's about 10 to 15%.
Yeah, it's a nice chunk, so it should help keep Cooper from dropping.
Okay.
Oh, it'll make it drop slower.
But how much is in 4, you think, Jim, usable?
I would say 35, I hope.
35
That we haven't
million,
touched that reservoir in
35 million?
35 million gallons.
Yeah,
Yeah, divided
so
by
we
4,
took them,
divided by 4, that's 8 days.
You never get the.
yeah, but I'm not saying we're gonna use
Yeah.
all 4 million out of that, but if you would
You think,
take another 500,000,
yeah,
off of that,
right, it's blend it in,
blend it in,
yeah.
and,
We'd have to look at the water quality right away.
okay, so maybe
The one
the
problem with blending it, from talking to Derek very briefly on this, is
Yeah.
the water from Cooper goes in the reservoir 4 when you open 4. So you need to basically shut Cooper way down to keep the pressure lower, otherwise it flows into 4 from Cooper instead of going to the plant. So we use 4 for reducing the pressure at the
Yeah.
plant when there's
Check, look
issues.
at
or
it
whatever.
again, hydraulic
Well,
profile,
again, that's where
yeah.
we got an engineer on staff that I expect should be making those calculations with the rest of our staff to guide us in regards to what we need to do and where the solutions are, coming up with solutions to move us along. And so are we gonna use that reverse, what would you call is that switch?
Yeah, we've switched 911, basically, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to offer you summer, yeah, we'll work together as we always do, to just make sure we get the word out to everybody, and, you know, we'll use all of our available tools and resources to help. And again, I think the message is that we just want to reiterate, right, just putting this out once isn't gonna, you know, we're gonna have to just keep talking about it,
Yeah.
you know, over the next couple of weeks, just we're in a drought alert. at this
Well, if
point.
we're notifying him on a weekly basis, we should be notifying our residents on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and there's things that potentially the city itself can do to conserve some of our water, let our fire department know, and let some of our other users know that, you know, we're also can help, you know, in the system, so.
Okay, and this is effective immediately then?
That's how I wrote it, so.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the alert part of it, it's not like. Okay. Anything else, any other questions?
In that same, I mean, Ryan's out there looking for leaks.
Yeah.
I reached out to a leak detection company to get a price prevailing wage for a daily rate in case we need assistance on looking for leaks in the city.
But we haven't noticed an increase over
But from a year ago, it is higher than that.
each week is a little higher.
So this time last year, we were about 300,000 lower.
Yeah, I think we've seen some economic activity increase in the city, some new, hotel rooms open up and, I think we're seeing some new usage, but, I just encourage Ryan to also talk to our DPW staff. I know we've spotted some potential leaks in certain areas with sewer,
Well, hopefully they would do that on a routine basis anyway, too, so.
Yeah.
Coordinate and communicate.
So one other thing I have is service leaks. So we have the policy where we hire the plumber if they're not being repaired. I have two examples on my desk right now. The letters were sent last June. They were told to fix them by August. They're both on the boulevard. Neither one has been fixed as far as we know. Those are just two examples. I don't think the water department has the money to hire plumbers for every service leak in the city.
No.
So I'm thinking of ways that we can, other than just sending letters and $50 fines every month.
Well, last week we authorized you to,
Fix one on second.
on Second Ave,
102, right?
One up to the second.
and where are we with that?
That is supposed to be done this week.
Okay.
Don't you have the right to re-levy those expenses?
We did,
We do, we'd have to come up with money up front.
with penalty.
I mean, we can do some here and there, there's something, other than just sending a letter asking. That doesn't seem to necessarily work all the time.
Well, no, it hasn't worked in forever, to be honest. So,
So those are the things we're looking at to try to reduce usage in the city.
okay, well, again, continue to pursue, in our process, we continue to find them, which doesn't seem to do much good.
Dennis, can I ask a question?
Sure.
As to the connection to the Ashokan, is that a top priority to get it in place, or is that a week by week evaluation until we get to the situation where you have to make a decision?
So the contractor is actively working on the permanent pieces of that connection, the road crossings, the electrical drop at the Ashokan.
Do we have all the permits from DEP though?
There's one road crossing sign off they're waiting for from DEP. Everything takes forever to get through DEP, but that's the one thing.
And which I delivered that message to, when we were meeting with we were meeting.
You were joking about that, I know, but if I was you, I'd make a
No,
personal phone
I
call.
talked to Phil.
Okay.
After the meeting, and so he's aware, we talked, he knows that he's actively working with you guys right now.
Initially, we didn't know, it wasn't known that DEP had to sign off on that road crossing, but it turned out they own that road. So that wasn't in the initial plans, but
Okay.
my understanding is it's moving forward rapidly, but.
But they're actively the contractor's actively working on the plans for,
Those permanent pieces of the connection are being
Okay.
worked on.
including the electrical drop and
Yes.
everything else that was gonna be done. Because that was kind of like the first piece of the puzzle,
That was part of
and it
it.
kept getting pushed back as DEP wasn't signing off on
Yeah.
approvals.
So the reason I asked that question is when Matt and I had this conversation yesterday, I was trying to understand from an operating point of view is what is the town of Ulster's risk for an extended period of time of operation? Knowing that once you put the emergency connection in place, it would at least give us a partial source of water from the city of Kingston, because I assume once you put it in place, you're gonna wanna use it. So I threw out a 6 months period, but, and you said, well, the construction period is only 4 months, but I'm trying to get an understanding, and I'm gonna ask you just to keep me informed of, because if I have to plan on running my plant for 6 months, I need to make provisions for that with my vendors for chemicals and salt.
Understood.
Because I have been running probably less than 10 days a month for the last 5 years, and we've cut back on our vendor on our vendor purchases. And, trying to get salt and chlorine today. That's what I'm afraid of.
We will stay in touch.
Okay, and the construction part with the intake, I mean, if there's no water coming in, there's no water coming in, doesn't matter if when is that supposed to be completed? Say that the intake tower functional. When's
That should be done late September, early October. We're waiting for the building. That's on a little bit of a delay for components inside the building.
Okay. But the normal construction schedule called for that tower to be functional by this fall
Yes,
into it.
but that doesn't necessarily mean we can raise it back up.
Right. Well, if there's no water,
Well,
to fill it.
even if there was water, the contract doesn't say we can raise it back up. It says 1096 for the duration. But I've spoken with the contractor about the last winter, we went up to 1098 because they weren't there. So
and what's our normal?
1106.
Okay,
And Mick Hollow was cleaned out today. They'll
Okay.
finish it tomorrow or maybe Friday.
and is there any, think you're gonna get anything out of that?
Not getting much. It's open.
All we're gonna do is maintain it. 1096 at least. That's the goal at this point in time, right?
Maintain it where it is for now and hope we get something back towards.
Get back up to
1096.
1096.
Just kind of a crazy question.
Sure.
With the level the reservoir is at now, how many days would that last?
Without any water at all.
Pretty much, yeah.
75.
75.
I know Judy used to put that in her reports at one point in time. I don't know what happened to it, but where it would be, the rainfall part. She would kind of say, there was always a sentence in the past about saying, we have, go back and look,
I can look.
we have
I can look at that.
219 days of storage available at this level or something, so. And I remember reading that every month's meeting on her report, and then all of a sudden I looked at, it was there.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't think anything.
There must be some chart,
I'll see where.
there must be a chart someplace that
She has it.
that equates
I have
back.
stuff, that's where I didn't make that number up. I have that from chart 75. That's not the
Okay,
number
so
I
that's
put
what
down.
you must
I
be.
just pulled that number from.
Okay.
Jimmy, that was a great question because 75 days is less than 120 days to put the emergency line in place.
It's true. Yeah, that's why it's key to start the process now and find out what's available. And if it's not available from the state, then what's available that we have to pay for? I mean, part of our whole plan was extra money that we really don't want to spend in case we had to activate that process, so.
Yeah, and I think Matt said, right, if I understood it before, that if we were to move forward, getting those pipes from a regular supplier would take till September. Right,
That's what the contract is on.
so like if the state doesn't have a stockpile, we'd be looking at September to be able to, until we could put in the system.
To get it and put it in place,
Right,
so.
Okay, well,
more than 75 days.
I guess at what point in time do we make that decision?
Can I ask a stupid question? There was at one time an emergency connection to feed Port Hume. Can that run in reverse?
There's not currently an emergency connection.
There's a connection on our side of the bridge, because they're doing the bridge work right now. I was down with Ryan today and we were actually talking about what they're doing over there, so I know it's there.
Yeah.
My understanding, without, we have to look into it, but I think it can feed part of downtown.
Yeah, I might,
Any little bit, Bill.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're down to 75 days,
Right.
I just don't know if the bridge work took out.
I don't think there was pipe on the bridge.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that was,
I think it
that was temporary pipe that
I'm
was,
not much
I
entirely
think that
sure.
there's a connection that they may have taken.
and I don't know what capacity they have.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to ask the question.
I'm looking at everything.
it wouldn't hurt to contact them again.
That would supply a field street, you have to pump it uphill all the way just to get to the bridge, then only supply. Probably not a hydrant, you wouldn't get any pressure out of there. Let's see how you do it, I don't know.
So what's his name, Kevin was the operator over at Port Huron, I think he now retired. But I remember, it's been on a long time.
I mean, Don Carey,
That's always possible.
talking about,
Kevin, that used to work for the Kingston Water Department, became superintendent.
Don Carey.
Yeah.
Don
that's
Kearney.
it, Don.
He retired here.
Yeah, he
He
retired.
retired, we dealt with him on that temporary, because they wanted a permanent connection. You know, in other words, they want to be like Ulster and take water. from-
Well, there was talk about that
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, or more than a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
comes and goes, but have to look that out.
Okay, kicked in a bunch of things around we can work on. Keep us all informed. Transmission main rehab project.
I meant to take that off and I didn't.
Okay, it's still done from,
Yeah, the work's done. Yeah.
jump back and do the bills and accounts?
Yeah, I ordered them, they're okay.
Okay, is there a motion to accept them?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. We had 2020.
All right, so I have an RFP we received from PCS. This is part of the WIA grant for the 900,000. 1.5 million, it was 900 grant, 600 loan. This is to, give me a second, because it's very technical language, like reading Greek. It's for the turbidity meters at the plant. It would install so they can be read from the SCADA. I believe, my understanding is without internet, since you're at the plant, they're wired directly. The new system is currently not set up that way. So this would wire them through a Modbus to the computers and allow them to be read. So the total price from PCS to do this work, this is to provide and install and test with our engineer, it's $10,860. That would be part of that EFC money.
Okay, that's, I mean, we have that money in there, and that's just coming out of
Yeah.
that
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 loan grant.
1.5.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, do you need anything from us other than just letting us know?
Accepting the RFP,
Oh, okay,
that's all.
so there's an RFP for $10,860.
$60 from Pump and Process Incorporated. PCS Pump and Process.
PCS. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to accept the RFP.
I'll make the motion to accept the RFP.
I have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing any, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. So what more do we have to do in that process?
For the WIA 2020 or
Well, yeah, I mean, this RFP for this SCADA system is 10.8, but there's also, we're still going to go out to bid for other valves and stuff, or?
yeah, so that's still being worked. That's what Ryan and his guys are out doing stuff for shutdowns for the design. There's a lot of valves that need to be checked before those documents are ready. So that's the majority of this project would be the valve replacement. That's where most of the money will go to. The SCADA was a very small piece.
Right, most of it's on the valves.
Yeah.
Which we have to go to bid at
We
some
will
point
be
in time.
going to bid, hopefully in a month or two. They're out there testing those valves
Okay,
as quickly as they can.
can we jump ahead to Tech City? I don't know how long Mr. Quigley is planning on staying at our meeting, but I don't know what you have, but like to ask Mr. Quigley if he can give us an update on what he knows about what's going on at.
So what I have is the bills are still being paid. They had a higher bill the last 2 months. Derek went out there and just took a reading and met with one of their maintenance guys. Sounds like they had a frozen meter in one of the buildings, was replaced, fixed. Because those are their meters, not ours. He went out and took 2 more readings after that, and it's back down to minimal usage. I did reach out to Dan at A-House, and he was, he connected me with, I believe, his maintenance staff, and they were appreciative of letting them know the water was up and it's back down to minimal use. I have not heard anything about their plans out there. For iPark, I did get a letter from the planning and zoning department from Ulster. And Bill and I talked about it, and we sent a letter just letting them know where the water is coming from, the situation that's going on out there for the 3 parcels in the back that the other group had bought.
Okay, yeah.
Realty something or other, I think their name is.
Probably Kingston Partners.
Yeah. So they had submitted plans to town of Ulster, and their engineer planning director had asked for comments from water. But other than that, I don't have any update on what's going on out there.
Mr. Quigley, could you update us what you know?
In August of 2021, 2 groups of investors bought the 5 buildings along the railroad tracks directly from Allen Ginsberg for $13 million. Those buildings, the buyers did not do very much due diligence on, and they are subject to the restrictive covenants contained within the IBM parcel that basically leaves the owner of the residual East Campus in control of their lives as far as it relates to utilities, water, sewer, gas, electric access, truck traffic, maintenance of parking spots, et cetera, et cetera. Joe Carter from National Resources entered into a contract in December of 2021 with Ulster County, whereby upon the completion of certain contingencies, his organization was to take title to the East Campus, that, with the exception of the power plant. And that is a different story. So about a month ago, Joe Cotter's group, National Resources, closed on purchasing the East Campus. They have a contract with the county to purchase the Bank of America building in the 57 acres in the back along the Esopus Creek, with a scheduled closing in September. I was informed this morning by Dennis Doyle of the County Planning Department that in the agreements that Mr. Cotter signed with the county, there's certain milestones, that there are certain actions that he is legally required to take and complete, or he's at risk of forfeiting and the property is going back to the county. In addition, he has an obligation to submit to UCEDA, which is the county's local development arm, his master plan for redevelopment, which as of this morning, nobody has any idea what it is. Last Thursday morning at about 8:30, I received a phone call from Dan A-House, all excited because Chuck Schumer's office was in the process of issuing a press release where Mr. Schumer had a phone call with the chief executive officer of a battery manufacturing company called Zinc 8, located in Toronto, Canada. And he was encouraging them to site their manufacturing facilities in New York State at the iPark location in Building 1. And he was seeking a quote from me. I refused to give him a quote because I didn't know about anything going on there. Freeman eventually never covered the story because it was just the report that Mr. Schumer had a telephone conversation. I found out later in the afternoon when Mr. Cotter and I had a discussion that the proposed tenant has not passed financial muster with National Resources. They were still investigating whether this was a credible action. And we are still waiting for National Resources to put their master plan together. We have no idea what they're planning on doing. They have dropped hints that they intend on doing a complete new road system in there, complete new utility system. They want to renovate the sewer plant to make it a primary disposal to feed into the town's sewer plant. But right now, as I said to the Kingston Freeman, we're just dating. He's whispering sweet nothings, I'm whispering sweet nothings, we're just dating. When he comes to the planning board with a proposal, we'll be able to say whether we're gonna have a marriage or not. Now, the utility plant, for some reason, the utility plant was left out of the original foreclosure action. So now the county has to foreclose against that, against Mr. Ginsburg. Now they're trying to figure out how they convey that to Mr. Connor to unite that portion of the process of the property. As it turns out, the town planning board was able to resolve with the two different ownership groups along the railroad tracks. Based upon recorded easements and surveys that they had sufficient parking. We were able to identify the parking, so we effectively gave them site plan approval to reoccupy the buildings. Getting into the process of evaluating individual space for tenant use, we came into the building department for demolition permits. And then it turned out that there was an evaluation of the fire suppression system, and it was discovered several of the buildings had broken supply lines, and now there's a major argument between Mr. Cotter, National Resources, and the two ownership groups of who's gonna fix it and how much are they gonna pay for it.
So nothing's going on in those buildings at this point in time.
Oh, there are parts, some of them are occupied with warehousing, light warehousing, no manufacturing, nothing that would demand heavy water use anywhere on the campus. The town has been unable to get our sewer billing system, our meters reestablished. So they don't have electric to the location where our meters are, so we continue to bill them on a guest basis. And I'm not hearing anything out of Central Hudson as far as any fire drills on improving the electric service. When the two ownership groups came together, they hired Gerard Associates out of Middletown to come in and do a survey and design for new electrical feeds so they can get away from buying their electric through the central utility plant setup. They found out that they had to invest $1.8 million to put new service lines and services to the 5 buildings along the railroad tracks. Kind of stopped them cold. As I said, they bought it without doing a whole lot of due diligence.
So they're getting Central Hudson through this utility?
Everything is, every single utility on the site, water, sewer, natural gas, is being distributed through the original IBM infrastructure. With the exception of the front building, which building number 1 is the clock tower, clock tower building on Enterprise Drive, and the Bank of America building, they actually broke off from the utility grids. They ran separate power lines on a pole line down Enterprise Drive.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the
Anything
update.
else you want to know?
Anybody else have any other questions? I mean, that begs what we want to do about.
My only concern is if they're paying for the water, which they are doing. I think maybe we should write a letter to them so they know that by doing so, it's not creating an implied contract with them, because we don't have any agreement. In Matt's letter, the last letter we sent to them, was they have to be aware that tomorrow that water could be turned off like that.
You had a contract with Ginsburg,
That's done and over with.
so you legally terminated it for non-payment.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Several months ago.
So we have no contract with anyone out there now, which would seem to me that if I was an insurance carrier, I'd be quite concerned about that.
So do you want to draft something?
The first close that we had, the first one, you said when they closed on that they didn't do their due diligence. And we called them up right after the closing. I said, by the way, guys, there's an outstanding water bill. Oh, we didn't know that. We knew that was our title company's. Did they ever pay that bill?
No, I part paid the whole thing.
Yeah, I part paid it when he showed up in my office and I gave him the old bills.
Right,
So he shorted you 1 quarter, but you got the money.
we got that back, yeah, we eventually got that.
He wrote the check the day I told him it was outstanding, so I didn't send you a bill for the collection fee.
Okay, but maybe you can draft something just to,
Yeah, the next time we get a payment, we'll just have a standard letter, because that acceptance does not apply any agreements to continue supply of water. One of the next, due next quarter.
Next week, right, Jay?
Next week,
Yes.
yeah, we bill them on a monthly basis, not a quarterly.
when they pay, when that check comes in, we send a letter back, acknowledging payment, but it's not applied.
But they are down to a very low consumption.
There should be for this month. I mean, we went back into the interim reading to see.
I mean, you have a feeling, Jim, that this is ultimately going to work out, it's a matter of getting all the puzzle pieces together. You have that feeling yet or not?
Yeah. It's the pieces that have to come together at the right time. And right now, there's a county executive who's distracted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You don't do that very well, Steve.
I'm trying to be as polite as possible.
Diplomatic.
It's probably opening coming up, right,
Excuse me?
for county exec?
Yes. And the reason being, I have a 30-day trip to Australia scheduled for February 2023.
30 days, wow.
And a 60-day trip from the Middle East to Spain in 2024, along with any number of other trips that are planned.
Boy, you're long range.
Well, to get the pricing and the trips that my wife wants, along with the rooms on the boats, you gotta book the minute they open up.
Enjoying.
Now I have a plan for the rest of my life, and unfortunately, it doesn't include that office.
Well, I see who's making your plan, so I understand.
Funny thing is that Brian Round stopped over to the town hall the other day to vote in the primary, and we got talking about politics. And I said, there's always the county executives race, and he's already talked to my wife out on the street. He looks at me and he says, she'll kill you. She'll kill you if you do that. I said, come on, Brian, this is Ulster County, she'll get away with it.
Good answer.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Jim.
Matt,
Take
please,
care.
don't be afraid to ask for anything if you get in a jam. We are down on personnel because we've had some changes. There are gonna be more changes, but we will do whatever we can to
All
help.
right, appreciate it, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, that's it.
Right.
Okay. Just, I guess, somewhat encouraging. Oh,
Steve?
status support. Yeah,
So
you
I
have a memo
I have
there.
my memo there with the proposal from TDM, so this would be similar to what we had with the GIS, where there's kind of a bucket of money and we use it as needed.
So is there like an hourly rate? So how do they charge us
I mean, I have
to
to hold,
work down on this 20,000?
so mostly it would be for, I think they mentioned the two gentlemen in this, Matt Lick and Marcos.
Yeah.
So depending on what it is, one of them would work and they have a rate that they get.
Should we know what that rate is? Someplace on
I
this,
can pull an invoice, but
I mean, well, I'm
it's
approving
about
it.
2 years worth of,
Well, we don't know. It says 1 to 2 years.
based on how we've been calling them, I mean, it's not like we're calling them every week. It's when there's an issue that we can't fix. There's certain things that we can't do.
But it would be nice, I guess, to know how they determined or how we determined over a 1 to 2 year period of time, that was $20,000.
Based on, we've had the SCADA system for years now, and they've done our support.
Yeah.
So it's based on how often we call Matlick and using those two. And other work that we have them do engineer the SCADA system.
But there's other contracts where they actually show when they submit.
They usually just show buckets of money, but they break it down to other tasks, but with this, it's just the one task. That's how CDM usually, so the only difference with this one and other CDM agreements is it's just a single task, so there's no table. I think you're the table you
So I'm
said.
just looking for an hourly rate that we're paying them
I've
to know.
asked them, but I don't think they've ever included that in the agreement.
Depends who's working it,
Yeah, what?
which level.
I think that,
Well, I
like,
mean, that's what normal the tables have. They'll show you, 20 hours at this amount for a tech and this much for an engineer and this much for a so-and-so. I mean,
They have,
I don't know what we're getting charged per hour. We call them up and say, we need your help. And we call them up 5 times and then they call us back and say, you're at the 80%.
I can ask, I've never seen that in all the CDM agreements we have in the past. It's usually like task 1 GIS, a bucket of money for 20,000. Task 2 is.
Yeah, but that's designing the system.
I mean, the hourly rates, I don't see hourly rates for CDM until we get the invoices. So I mean, I can look at the most recent invoices. I've never seen it in an agreement that we've had with them. I can ask them if they do that.
they could send the rate schedule. It's like-
Yeah, they do
Just have
that.
to attach their rate schedule.
I mean, I just have a problem signing a contract that says we'll give you up to $20,000 over the next 1 or 2 years. And I'm not sure how they're billing us.
Allocating it, I mean.
I think just asking for the rate schedule
Yeah.
would be fine, and then
Okay.
I'm sure that's all, and then
Do
you
that,
just
no
attach it to the contract, and then you'll know, at least their hourly rates are, and they already talk about a multiplier, but I just signed a contract for one of our consultants that are, doing construction inspections, and they, list the names of the people, the hourly rate that those people will be charged, how many approximate hours they'll be doing construction inspection, and then what the office multiplier is, like they have this 3% mileage to something, and then it's a not to exceed contract still, but it doesn't.
I guess my only concern is it's not to exceed 20,000 and for 1 or 2 years and they, I know it's based on how many times we call them and how much work they put in, but without knowing how much I'm spending.
I can ask them. I just asked them to do what they did with the GIS that we had, and that's kind of what she drew up for me. So I can.
If the GIS was like, we're asking them to do
Yeah,
one project, it's like,
And this is, the SCADA is one.
yeah, but this is ongoing for support. This is,
Yeah, that's what our GIS will support for as well. That's what our agreement with them now is support for GIS. We're about out of money on that. Because they do the same thing where they put in, we're at 20%, they'll let us know.
okay,
But I can ask them for the rate schedule, it's not a problem.
okay. Do you need that? Do you need to have this signed by? We don't need to approve this tonight, do we?
No, we're not.
Okay. So if you can get that back to us, we can hold off until next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only downside to that is any calls from now to August, that money will come out of the WIA budget. That's what we've been paying them out of.
Okay,
And Derek has issues and he has to call them. That's what we've been paying them out.
as opposed to this coming out of our general.
I have a new budget for SCADA support exclusively. So when we have to call CDM, because we have to call CDM if there's an issue with SCADA, they've been billing us out of the other agreement that we have for engineering.
Under this contract here, this $20,000 is going to get paid out of where?
That would be out of the operating.
Out of the operating,
Right.
so. I mean,
That's the
obviously,
only downside. We can wait till August. I'm just letting you,
Okay.
make sure you're aware of, that's where, if we have calls in the next 3 or 4 weeks, that's where those. money
right,
go.
that's fine. It's.
And maybe to cover that issue, we could go ahead and have the dates of the contract that we signed go back to now.
I mean, the only difference is we're taking money out of the WIA
It
grant.
means there may be a change order for that. They eat the budget up for the engineering for the SCADA and the other work for the. That's the only reason I mentioned it, is there may be.
I guess I'm just wondering if maybe, is there an ability to, I mean, I don't know how quickly you guys pay over here compared to how we pay over here at City Hall, but like,
It'd be monthly. But I don't know
yeah,
how to work for their invoicing.
right, so I mean, if they invoice you, you know, you may be able to do like a journal entry to
We could do it in.
internally move the money from, like, as soon as we approve the contract, any costs that you had for this
They
month,
can go,
you could just basically move,
take it out of
take it
the,
out of the operating instead
I'll let
of.
you guys figure that out. Okay. Quarry Street,
Going well. They started last Tuesday. The Friday before, the dates may be wrong, but they went up and they did some drilling to prepare their blasting plan. And they discovered the rock was not nearly what they thought it was going to be. So they moved forward with no blasting at all. They've been working since last Tuesday. They have all the Ts, the connections, the Ts, the 3 taps done. From Howland to the school, when I was there this afternoon or this morning, they were thinking they were gonna tie into the school's tap this today. They were drilling down below between the dentist, second dentist's office, and I think it might be another dentist's office. They were hammering there. So most of the pipe is in the ground, so by next meeting, they should be out of there hopefully.
That's good.
So they're moving along, they're not wasting their time.
okay, great. Treatment chemicals,
So last month we had those renewal offers and we rebid them. Instead of taking those, so we put out a bid for the alum, sodium hypochlorite and hydrated lime. We got bid back on the alum from Holland and Slack. The Holland offer was, the bid was same as the renewal offer, so it's 0.299 a pound. And then we got one bid for the hydrated lime from Slack, which was the company we had before. And that is 22% higher than the June renewal, so about $900 more in order. So that's going to be 0.489. And then with the sodium hypochlorite, we did not receive a bid.
and
So we
so,
have no contract as of Friday, Saturday, for the sodium hypo. We have a delivery coming tomorrow, and then after that, we'll have to
but
pay
you presented to us last meeting,
was $4.89 a gallon, I believe.
so we're gonna, that's,
But now we'll pay whatever they tell us to pay, because there's no contract.
no, but they offered a contract last month,
And we didn't take it, and then they didn't offer a bid when we put the bid out.
okay, but
They said no bid on the, they didn't offer a bid, they just did the line.
so can we ask them for a contract price or not?
We can reach out to them.
I mean, they offered that at that price a month ago, just say, is that price contract still good?
I'm thinking it might not be, since they didn't put a bid in on Monday. But it doesn't hurt to ask Derek to email his contact.
We didn't take it because
It was high,
It was high, and
so was the line, but now the line is even higher, but it is what it is, and we'll have to pay it. So Derek, he's gonna call Surpass Chemical, they didn't put a bid in, but see what they might be able to do. We need to have it, so we're gonna have to call whatever suppliers are offering it, whatever price they're willing to give it to us at. There does seem to be a shortage of it, so I'll call on Tim Rowe
what's
to see, of the sodium hypo.
okay.
Jim said that too, right? That-
Well, he just made it seem like he needed to, they're not using as much as they would normally use. And if they're gonna start their plant up again and operating at a full thing, he's gonna need to,
He said that it was hard to get and expensive, so.
Okay, so we're looking for at least,
2 motions
okay,
to accept the alum from Holland Chemical at 0.299 a pound.
I'll make the motion.
do I have a second?
second,
Okay,
And then,
those in favor?
sorry,
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Okay, carried. Then lime,
hydrated lime from Slack Chemical, price of 0.489 a pound.
I'll make that motion,
Second.
okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. At this point in time, we're just buying sodium hydro,
Whoever has it.
whoever has it at whatever price we get. But you can ask whoever has it if we can get a contract and what the contract price will be.
Yep.
I mean, they offered a contract a month ago, right? The yearly contract?
Market changes day to day.
Yeah.
What's the contract usually the time on it?
A
We
year.
do a year with
A year.
an optional renewal, mutual.
So I can't get hurt if anything. You know, so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what I was under the impression that we'd go back to that contract price or as opposed to just the bid price.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, the hope was a bit would come in with the same offer,
all
but
right.
it expires on 15th. So
Okay, financial audit.
I had sent a letter from the auditors to the board. There was no findings. I have hard copies here. If you want one? I sent the electronic copy earlier. Anybody have any questions? Other than that, there wasn't much to it this year.
Okay, you know, I didn't spend the time going through all that. at This point in time.
No findings. I like that part.
Yes.
Okay.
You gotta accept that or?
We don't usually.
No, I
No,
think it's
Just
just,
a presentation of the audit.
correspondence, superintendent's report.
I don't have a problem, make a motion to accept the report,
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor of accepting the superintendent's report?
aye,
Opposed? Okay. Do we have to go into executive session for Anthony
I mean, I
Peterson?
have the memo, so I have nothing else. If you have questions about what I included, then sure, but
It's just promoting him,
Yeah, it's fine by me.
promoting, oh, I have it someplace. There's a recommendation to promote Anthony Peterson to water maintenance assistant. No, that's what he was, that's what he is,
water service.
the water service assistant. A salary of $53,335.34 per year. Correct? Okay. Have a
I'll make the
motion?
motion.
second,
Second, okay, any further discussion? All those in favor,
Aye.
aye.
opposed? Carried. Anything else, Matt?
Nothing else. Was there anything I forgot, Jane? that I asked
No,
you?
I have it all. No, you got it all. All my little notes.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn then.
Well, before you try, I just want to register. I had an inquiry from Patrick Hickey from Kingston, who would like to serve on the water board. I've given the mayor the information. He's very anxious to do it. He worked for the, I believe, the Rhinebeck Bank in just over Bridge 50. He'd like to serve if possible, if they he thinks he can get off early to work, to come up to the meetings, but he's lived here his whole life. I lived next door to him for years. And this young man said that with a grain of salt, because I'm old. But I gave it to, I'll give you a copy of that, so you know.
Okay.
I know he'd like to meet with the mayor too.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes.
the mayor said that once he gets it, he'd like to have a meeting with him. Steve offered me to attend that same meeting. So,
Yeah,
Well, I just think the time off is crucial. I mean, we need some people to make sure they come to the meetings. Right?
right, I mean, we're gonna make sure that he's committed to making, if we have to move the meetings a little bit.
he thinks he can get out of work early, but maybe, you know, he could.
It's
make
once a month.
5 o'clock. Yeah,
It's once a month, it's not like it's,
But I think Joanne also, she's always has a problem getting here on, you know, at 5 o'clock. I don't, we took 15 minutes, maybe something like that.
yeah, I mean, when I started, I think we met at 3 or
It
4,
was 3, went to 4,
or
5, it was later 7 at one time.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
Seven
So
o'clock.
he has some background, he's really into marketing. He graduated from Siena and also has a master's degree from Marist in marketing.
Oh, we appreciate you reaching out.
Oh, well, he kind of spoke to me as well.
Okay, great.
Just my person.
So, Mayor, you'll reach out to him now that you have the application
Do
and
you want me to have him contact you or should I contact
No,
you?
this is good. Well, my office will call him and set it up with Dennis to have a meet and greet.
maybe we can have a new member by August, right?
Yeah, we'll be able to get a meeting together before then.
Great. Okay. Motion to adjourn then.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you all.